Well, Jim, let's go to some other news that is breaking as we are recording. This is pretty significant news on an international scale. Kazuchika Okada, by far the biggest star in New Japan Pro Wrestling, their number one guy, has announced he's leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling. Here's a statement from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Thank you for supporting New Japan Pro Wrestling. Kazuchika Okada will be leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling after the conclusion of his contract on January 31st, 2024. We apologize to fans for the abrupt nature of this announcement, but join them in wishing...
2 weeks!
But 2 weeks notice, there you go. But join them in wishing Okada the very best in his future. As the New Beginning series begins this weekend, Okada will appear on February dates on February 11 in Osaka and February 23rd and 24th in Sapporo. Changes will be made to forthcoming cards with an announcement to follow. We appreciate your understanding and continued support. We also have a statement from Okada.
Well, now, hold on here. The Japanese are so polite with their official statements. Part of it may be the automatic translator or whatever, but so his contract is up January 31st. They have obviously made some kind of arrangement where he can make those, 2 or 3 dates that you...
3 dates.
Just 3 dates in February, but they're going to change some of the other cards. So it sounds like, oh, God, please make these, right? And apparently they didn't have... Because the way the Japanese obsessively pre-plan, this is apparently new news to them.
Well, the other thing, too, is when in Japanese wrestling history did the number one star just leave? But let's...
never. Go ahead.
Let's go to Okada's statement here. I have nothing but gratitude for having been a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling since 2007, and for New Japan Pro Wrestling bringing me from a 19-year-old kid off the plane in Mexico to the rainmaker I am today. Thank you to the best of companies in New Japan Pro Wrestling, to the best of opponents that I've been able to face here, and to the best of fans that have cheered and booed over the years. I promise to make it rain every match I have left, so keep watching. And with that, New Japan's biggest star, the biggest star in Japanese wrestling, the guy who's been groomed to be the biggest star with big victories at the Tokyo Dome and everything else, the guy who put Kenny Omega on the map, the guy
so now I don't like him already.
No, but I mean, it was those matches where you first started hearing about Omega. Right. And it was his matches with Tanahashi that were the ones that kind of revitalized talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, at least amongst excited fans. So this is a big deal.
And Tanahashi is the gentleman they just made the president of the company now, right?
That is correct, and I think a lot of people thought that would be something that would cause Okada to want to stay.
Well, but I get it, maybe if they're best friends and bosom buddies, but at the same time, is this an example of, the biggest star in Japanese wrestling, as you said, has never left. Inoki never, left his company, but he did leave, and so did Baba, the JWA, to start their own companies.
Yeah.
So,
but they were never gone from Japan. I mean, I know they did tours.
But they were never gone from Japan.
Baba toured America several times, but that was before he had All Japan Pro Wrestling, and Inoki was always trying to do anything just to get his face out there on an international scale. So he went everywhere, but they were always coming back home.
I guess what I'm saying is does Okada think, well, why not me? Why wasn't I? I'm the big deal now. He's younger than Tanahashi, right? And he's the star. Even though Tanahashi was big, so is there something there? Or is it, if the WWE is interested at all in Okada and your sources say Magic 8 Ball says they are, then naturally also it's a Japanese superstar. Tony is going to open his father's checkbook and back up the Brinks truck because, oh my God, this is one of the rarest collectibles in wrestling. The biggest star in Japan. My ever-dwindling fan base will cream their jeans over this. And then if he does that...
So would he.
Well, there you go. But if he does that, then the WWE that's running a business will say, well, it would have been nice if we could have got this guy for a reasonable rate, but we're not going to fucking get in a bidding war with this goof over an unproven talent in this country in this style. Let the Japanese wrestling collector collect the Japanese wrestlers. Because Okada is great in the ring, but how would the WWE market him? Are they going to do another deal where they make it like the Nakamura videos and do subtitles and he's, an evil Japanese fellow? Or would they try to make him a babyface, but with a limited ability to communicate in promos? How would that work in a company that is literally monologuing and soliloquying us to death on a regular basis?
You give him a Paul Heyman. Treat him serious.
But then he's a heel, okay. I can see it, but then can he be an American heel? Does he understand that? So Tony will take him no matter what. The WWE would have to have some idea of how they would fit him into their system. And if they did make any kind of legitimate offer, they'd have to figure out a way for it to be at the top of the cards, which in that company, Okada, to me, his strengths might play more to AEW, where he'd make more money, probably because of Tony, but he would be in front of much fewer people and would not honestly be established as a star in this country past anybody he's already a star to, because that's what they do. So where should he go?
Yeah, that's the thing. What does he want? If he's leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling, that's significant. He's a big star over there. He's married to an actress. He's on mainstream shows. Like, he's known. He's a big commodity over there for New Japan.
If you're married to a talented actress, how would you ever know whether she's faking?
But he's a big star over there and he's choosing to leave. And I think that's significant for a number of reasons. One, before we even talk about the decision to make where to go, what does that say about what he sees as the future right now of New Japan Pro Wrestling and Japanese wrestling in general? And when AEW signed someone like Takeshita, who we all agree is talented and has size and is young,
yeah,
and he needs seasoning, but when he's over here, someone like that isn't over there. And there aren't a lot of Takeshitas. It's one of the reasons he stands out. There aren't a lot of, I don't know, to me right now, you worry about the next generation of Japanese wrestling more than ever before. There aren't strong leaders like Inoki and Baba, who ran their own companies. There are guys that get put in nice positions for New Japan, which is owned by someone else.
Owned by a big corporate conglomerate.
But why would you stay there if you know that it's going to be a rough road ahead? If you have any aspirations of doing anything in wrestling, why would you stay there right now if you're Okada? Unless you're just happy being home, unless you want that AWA lifestyle. I don't know what you would call it. But yeah. America, you have two options here. Tony Khan will offer you the most money. I'm certain of that. You will have kind of the ability to just wrestle an easier schedule, not have to wrestle that often. You may have to fly into TVs every week. It'll be a very loose backstage environment. I don't know if he wants a structured environment or a very loose environment where fights or drama break out everywhere you turn.
Or again, just on a more on a basis of looking at the product, there's obviously changes and or last minute and or haphazard booking and or, no structure on what each match is supposed to do or deliver or those type of things, which again may not be a good introduction to a guy like that to American wrestling, who is he's on a learning curve to figure out how to get over here, which is,
if that's what he wants. See, that right there is the issue. Because if he just wants to get paid a lot of money and wrestle over here with some guys that he likes, AEW would afford him a very leisurely lifestyle.
Yes.
He will be happy and there'll be no pressure on him. He's 36 years old. So whatever he's going to do, this is the time. Because what are they going to sign him to, a 3-year or a 5-year deal? 36. He has to do it now. So if he ever wanted to be even in the talk for a WrestleMania main event, you have to do that now.
Well,
No, but I'm saying, but you know what? You haven't really watched him. I'm telling you, he's really good. It depends on how they would use him. It depends how he adapts to America. It depends how he's used on TV.
As a heel with Heyman in his corner, I could see a WrestleMania main event. I can't really see under any other.
Okay, well, let's say he could see it, though. The point is, can he see it? And if he sees that a WrestleMania main event is the kind of thing he could do, he's 36 years old. It's now. It's not going to be, okay, I'm 39 or I'm 41. My contract's up. Do you still want me? If there was ever a time for him to do something, take advantage of his position in the wrestling world with WWE, would be now. His value wouldn't be as high coming out of AEW.
Does he know these things, I wonder? Or does he listen to some of the younger guys that he's probably associating with more often who say, oh, it's great in AEW. Tony, all the checks are good and you can do whatever you want. And does he understand how he would need to apply himself here too? Or does he think it'll be easy because he was the star there? Remember, he was the one that I actually, when I was with TNA, he was there for a little while before I left. And they were using him as a flunky, as fucking Kato or whatever, because of shit stain. And I'm not saying they should have put him in the main events then, but you could tell he was a talented athlete. I'd watch him work out, and his workouts were better than the matches. But, so he's obviously well aware that you can come here and be treated like a fucking clown.
I mean, the other path is, and again, WWE probably won't give him as much as Tony. I mean, I guarantee you they won't give him as much as Tony just to start.
Right.
He may even have to go to NXT. And I don't say have to, like he doesn't have the talent, but like you said, you have to adapt a little bit to what's happening over here.
Well, he's going to have to be able to figure out how to work with the rest of the roster. They're not going to send the rest of the roster into training to figure out how to work with him.
Right. And then, that's a thing for WWE that they do. You have to work WWE style. They're not going to change everything, so someone's working your style. And, then like Rob Van Dam, he kind of just stayed with his own style the whole time he was there.
Well, yeah, the modern day Argentina Rocca. And that's another, Okada, even beyond wrestling, a lot of NXT is, yes, he's done TV in Japan. And I would bet you my left nut that the New Japan television is not orchestrated and produced and rehearsed, and the music cues and the cue to disappear and all that other shit. That's another thing they teach in NXT is working the television programs that the WWE does.
Again, he's main evented the Tokyo Dome, and I know it's a big deal, but whenever you see footage of it, it looks dark, it looks drab. I mean, they do what they can. They have their stage and their pyro and everything, but it just doesn't look, to me, all that grand. It's just like, we have a big room, let's get a big ramp.
Well, remember,
WrestleMania is WrestleMania. If you're someone who's made money, you're in this business, and you want to do something more, do you want to just go wrestle the way you've been wrestling and doing what you've been doing in AEW, and at least you'll get like a Wembley, which is going to be like fucking Texas Stadium every year, it's going to be a little bit less? Or do you want to do WrestleMania? Or do you want to be a part of WWE if they do something in Japan? You're going to be on a worldwide stage. I mean, it's all about Okada.
That's probably his biggest value to them, depending on how serious they are about doing something over there. That's probably why they would want him in the fold. But how far would that want stretch when Tony's just throwing stupid money to have the Japanese star?
And then in AEW, it's like, okay, you'll get him and Danielson. If Omega ever can walk again, you'll get him and Omega. You can get him and MJF at some point if MJF is back at some point. But after a while, Moxley, if you're really into Moxley, but he runs out of people there. You put him in the top of WWE if he got to that point, going with everything you said. But if he got there, there's endless guys for him to have runs with. Cody, Orton, Punk, Rollins, Drew, you can now throw in that mix, let alone everything happening with the bloodline and everything. And Brock's about to come back, apparently, which is exactly what we need. I mean, it's really, the decision he makes will say a lot about his drive, unless it's a financial thing purely. My favorite is still Will Ospreay, who said, he took the AEW offer over WWE because he could spend more time at home in England. It's just one of my favorite things. But I guess that's the question. What would you do if you're Okada?
Well,
36 years old.
Again, I would think like you were thinking, but I don't know how he thinks. So, and also, if he was like, you know what, I can't do that fucking rainmaker and land on my insert sore body part here very much longer, but I've heard from Kota Ibushi that this fucking billionaire will sign you, let you do other shows that you get hurt on, and then pay you while you have multiple operations. So maybe it's an insurance policy. If he knew that he said, I don't know if I can do this too much longer, I'm gonna get this fucking money, and it's already out. The word is out that he won't fire anybody. He could sign Okada for 5 years. Okada could get hurt in 3 months, and Tony'd pay him. So there's something to be said for that.
Well, one last point on this and we'll move on. With this news, and Okada's not leaving New Japan to go sign with DDT. So with this news that Okada is coming stateside, with the news that Julia, the biggest star in Stardom, the biggest women's wrestling company there, she's leaving. She's coming stateside, and it appears it'll be WWE because AEW, from what we heard, AEW wasn't going to sign her. And WWE should sign her. What does that say about the state of Japanese wrestling? The two biggest stars and the two biggest men's and females companies, they're leaving at the same time to try to make it in the States.
Well, maybe they know something we don't know. And you mentioned that when Baba and Inoki ran their companies, they were strong leaders, they were wrestlers, they were stars, they were wrestling people, they understood, Inoki had his flights of fancy on a regular basis. Baba was the steady, rock solid guy. But they lasted for decades because they knew it. It was them. It was like Vince, right? It was like fucking Eddie Graham, whatever. Now, New Japan, the only company that's really of a size, and they own the women's company also, or the same conglomerate. It's like WCW in the Turner days. They're owned by a corporation. That's the last couple of head honchos haven't been wrestling people. They've been executives, and they've done what they can do, but maybe they're just in need of, like America's in need of, strong wrestling leadership, for heaven's sake. But you mentioned the TV shows in the 1970s and early 80s when we started getting the Japanese tapes. That was the best television production of wrestling in the world. Your mouth would hang open compared to what was being shot in the States and the territories because they were on network TV in Japan, whether it was TVSI or NTV or whichever the networks were then, Nippon TV. And that's why that it was so popular in Japan and so well shot, and the library still exists and all that stuff. This was network business over there. Whereas the business in America was local stations in the territories. Now it's reversed. Not only is wrestling here on network TV, the networks are paying for it. And meanwhile, I don't know what New Japan's specific TV deal is, but they have not been in prime time in years and years and years, and are probably paying for a lot of their production and their New Japan World, etc. So now the WWE is the state of the art when it comes to television production. And like you said, even the Tokyo Dome, they're doing what they can do. And there's wrestling always follows the same kind of pattern, just in different places at different times around the world. And a lot of what's happened in America has happened in Japan too. Outlaw promotions, indie promotions, lowering the bar on the standard of work, Americanized, wrestling pollution with the run-ins and the garbage matches. And, at the same time, the television situation reverses over time, and everything reverses over time. This might be the time for the top Japanese to get out of Japan. Because maybe they see,
Well, time will tell. I mean, that's a pretty significant story. It says a lot about the state of Japanese wrestling in 2024, and more importantly, I guess the state of American wrestling, or companies based in America in 2024. Whether it's run by Triple H or someone who dresses like a exotic Bolshevik at his media scrum.
Antonio Kanoki.
Antonio Kanoki. Yeah, what do you want to do? Go work for Triple H or Antonio Kanoki?
I'm telling you, better than the Russian look. He needs to go back to the scarf, and he'll appeal more to Okada.
I think it depends how much Okada wants to be hugged.